There is no excuse. You cannot equate a democratic state like Israel with a terrorist grouping. It seems to be today might be the calm before the storm, though, because British Airways have now cancelled all flights to Israel. And generally, when an airline does that, it's because they're expecting huge military action of some description. And it doesn't take Einstein to work out that it is probably going to be a ground invasion of Gaza. Now, that will mean inevitably that people start saying, well, that's a disproportionate reaction, which I always think in these circumstances is a coward's way out of an argument. Because what on earth is proportionate when hundreds, in fact, I think the figure is now up to nearly 2,000 of your citizens have been slaughtered by terrorists, where children have been beheaded by terrorists? What is a proportionate reaction to that? Well, Israel is standing firm and saying that it has to root out the Hamas terrorists in Gaza. Again, I don't see how you can argue that they have every right to do that. And people say, well, yes, but if you do that, you kill women and children, which is terrible. I completely accept that is a terrible thing, a terrible byproduct of what the Hamas terrorists did. But what is Israel supposed to do? Just let the terrorists continue to make their plans for another attack? And they say, yes, but why does Israel have to bomb hospitals and schools? That inevitably civilians are going to be killed in those circumstances. Well, that is because the cowards that they are in Hamas, they are using schools and hospitals to hide in as cover. Now, the Israelis are giving warnings of where they're going to attack, so civilians can actually move out of the area. But of course, then people say, yes, but the Gaza Strip is a very small area. And they're absolutely right on that. So I don't resile from the fact that there will be many civilian casualties in these areas, even however targeted they are. And at least the Israelis actually do target, whereas with Hamas, their attacks were completely indiscriminate on totally innocent people.
Everyone's been comparing the war to, that Israel, that the Hamas is treating Israel like terrorists, like the Holocaust, right, where they're going in and literally slaughtering people.
Which they have done.
Which they have done. But my personal opinion is that the way Israel are treating the people in Gaza is like a ghetto. They've cooped them up there, 2 million people in a tiny space of land, about 20 by 10 kilometres. Right. Now, everyone's trying to say that the Gaza civilians are not behind the Hamas, but I don't blame them if they are, and I do think they are, because this is how they've been locked up in there. It is unacceptable, and no one is voicing their opinion, and even their Arab nations are joining up with Israel, and they don't realise what Israel is doing to them.
Well, they clearly do.
The only way to voice their opinion.
They clearly do understand the situation in Israel. They see Hamas as a malignant cancer on the Palestinian movement, which they are. They know that it's actually, at least in part, Hamas who is responsible for the fact that the peace talks have not progressed over the last years, because there have been chances to get a two-state solution, and yet it is largely the extremists who sort of made sure that doesn't happen. So that Israel actually left Gaza in 2005 and left it to be self-governed. And it's been a terrible failure by the Palestinians to actually achieve effective self-government.
Right, well, how do you want them to make an effective government with, everything being limited and watched by Israel, which comes into the country, right, which comes into their tiny little space, right? And they've got no space for the people. Israel aren't giving them, enough to deal for 2 million people, and Israel is only about 8, and it's, who knows how much bigger it is, even though it's so small.
So all you've done in this phone call is talk about the plight of the Palestinians in Gaza, and I'm not going to disagree that the living conditions there have been appalling for a very long time. I completely agree with that. But
right,
you
what
think
do you want Hamas to do if this is the only way to voice their opinion?
Well, so you think this is the way they should have voiced their opinion, do you?
Right, well, there's no other way to voice it, right? They've been
Well,
stuck there
isn't it funny how Fatah in the West Bank, they don't do this sort of thing. They have regular back-channel conversations with the Israeli government, and
Right.
there are
How many people
relations.
How many people are there in the West Bank?
If you're going to keep talking when I'm talking because you don't like what I'm saying, I'll end the call right now.
Go ahead.
Would you like to condemn what Hamas did?
Sorry?
Would you like to condemn what Hamas did, killing hundreds, if not thousands, of Israeli citizens, beheading babies?
Well, this is the only way for them to voice their opinion.
Oh, OK, go away, Mo. I don't want anybody like you on my programme. You disgust me with that kind of attitude. There is no excuse. You cannot equate a democratic state like Israel with a terrorist grouping. You simply cannot.